All right, let's switch gears. We're going to switch sports a minute, and we're going to talk basketball. Braydon Hawthorne, Mountaineer fans last night were on Braydon Hawthorne watch. I even did a live stream while it was happening, while he was doing his commitment. It was down to West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Duke, North Carolina. Duke, Kentucky, sorry. He ended up picking Kentucky, to my surprise. I thought Kentucky had a shot. Then as I went through the day, I thought, maybe not. He ends up picking them. A, were you surprised that he picked Kentucky? And B, what does it mean for West Virginia? Should West Virginia Mountaineer fans be concerned or not?
Surprise, no, not really. You and I had conversed privately Tuesday
Mhm.
night about it, and even Wednesday, almost up until the point where there was an announcement, and you went live, and I was kind of out a little bit, but and it kind of felt like from everything that we were hearing, it was Kentucky, it was West Virginia, and it was Pitt. Weirdly enough, Virginia Tech, even with his connection with Chester Frazier, seemed to be on the back burner
Mhm.
along with Duke. Surprised. On one hand, yes. On one hand, no. If I can kind of ride the fence here, yes, in the sense of, well, let me start here. No, I'm not surprised in the sense of it's Kentucky. And the reality of it is, and a lot of people may not want to hear it, but when you talk about blue blood programs, and when you say name somebody college basketball, you run through your Kentuckys, your Dukes, your Carolinas. It's just the reality of it. And so if you put yourself in Braydon Hawthorne's shoes, it's a huge opportunity to say you went to University of Kentucky. It just is. So not surprised in that manner. Surprised though, in the sense of the complete roles that they appeared both West Virginia and Kentucky were offering were couldn't be opposite, right? Uh, in fact, I even posted last night an article from a Kentucky site that described him as a developmental piece.
Yeah.
Um, Wild when you call a 4-star and one of the 30th ranked players in the country a developmental piece. West Virginia, on the other hand, was selling NIL, both were, but stay home, new program, new coach, new staff, and we want you to be a part of it,
Yeah.
and you're going to play. Um, so yes and no on different spectrums. Where does West Virginia go? I mentioned a while back when we were doing a show that I felt like West Virginia has done a excellent job in getting the core of this team right. So now you're looking to just kind of find pieces that you think can fill out this puzzle. And so you go to some players that you think could maybe contribute that 10 minutes a game, 8 to 10 minutes a game, and get you 3 or 4 rebounds. You go get that guy that you think can spell the point guard, because there are still holes in this roster. You have got to add another big man. You've got to get a backup point guard. So the portal is so full of players still,
Mhm.
that there's no lack of talent in it. I think the challenge for Ross Hodge and his staff is to find somebody um, that kind of fits this team and rounds it out. But I'd just say this finally on it, Couz, that actually impressed with what West Virginia did here. I do want to say that. I want to tip my cap to Ross Hodge and his staff. First off, let's say this: outside of just playing for the state of West Virginia, and that's a debate that we've had before. What's it mean to stay home? We've talked about that.
Mhm.
Let's be honest here. Braydon Hawthorne committed to West Virginia at a completely different time, under a completely different staff, under a completely different set of circumstances. I don't fault him for decommitting and opening himself back up and putting himself out there to further his career down the
Mhm.
line. Um, I, I actually feel like West Virginia did an unbelievable job to quote unquote get back in the game.
Yep.
They got him back on campus because they were legitimate option here. They were a legitimate option to beat these schools for him through everything that transpired with the old staff to this point. They were a legitimate option. So even though it didn't go in West Virginia's favor, I give him a huge
Mhm.
amount of credit for up until the very end being involved here. Um, and you never know when the portal opens back up.
Exactly.
You never know because it happens. It happens every year. You can go back to Kentucky's team last year when they brought freshmen in that were. I'm sure I'll get corrected by the Big Blue Nation. I think they had the Kentucky Player of the Year as a freshman last year who hit the portal and went elsewhere.
Mhm.
So just because it may not happen this year doesn't mean it won't happen next year. So stinks. I love Braden Hawthorne. I don't need to spend any more time on this show talking about how much I love him. Go back and watch the clips. I've said it from day one. He's a star in the making, and I will always root for a West Virginia kid, no matter where he goes. But I wouldn't shut the door just yet because it may open up next year down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish the young man no ill will, and he did it the right way too.
Sure.
He took his time. He went on multiple visits, tried to find out what program's the best fit for him. And he felt like Kentucky was the best fit. He talked about his relationship with Mark Pope and the staff. They call him every day. He feels comfortable with them. That stuff matters, right? Was NIL a part of it? Probably so. I don't know. I have no idea. I hear conflicting reports. I hear some reports saying West Virginia wasn't even close. I hear others that say they were offering more money than Kentucky. Who knows where the truth is? It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I respect his decision. And I made a post on tweet that some people I think took out of context, saying, when I was a kid, it would have been my dream to put on the old gold and blue. So it's hard. I have a hard time understanding why some of these kids don't want to, but I also have never went through the recruiting process. I have not ever seen what other schools have to offer, right?
Yeah.
And I also probably shouldn't assume that everybody grows up a West Virginia fan, right? Some of these kids probably aren't even huge fans of college basketball. They're just fans of basketball or
Yeah.
playing basketball or NBA basketball, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's fair to judge them. And when you look back through history, and I even made a comment that was probably a little bit off base that said, well, what has the West Virginia brand fallen because why are we not getting these local kids? But then some people have pointed out to me in the comments that, man, it's been happening for years.
Yeah.
Somebody even put a list of the guys going way back to the 80s that didn't pick West Virginia, right? And
Yeah.
then you look at then I had somebody else comment that, man, it happens at every school. It's not just West Virginia. So that there seems to be an uptick in people leaving their home state to go play elsewhere. I don't know if it's an NIL thing. I don't know if it's just getting away from home, maybe experiencing something different. Some of that might play a role in it. But at the end of the day, I wish him nothing but the best. Now,
Sure.
I, I would have rather him pick Kentucky than Pitt or Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
So I can live with that a
Yeah.
little easier, to be honest. But even if he had chosen Pitt, I wasn't going to send him any nasty DMs. I wasn't going to go after him on Twitter.
Right.
I just probably wouldn't, you know, root for him quite as hard, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I do want to see him succeed. And again, like we've heard Neil Brown mention multiple times, we've heard other coaches, they're not going to stop recruiting Braden Hawthorne. And what I mean by that, they're not going to try to poach him. But
Right.
what they will do is keep an eye out for him. Hey, does he go back in the portal? And as soon as he hits the portal, I guarantee you they'll be right back in the mix again.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, one thing we know about Kentucky, like a lot of schools, they're going to reload every year, right? And they're going to try and get the win now player every year. That's just how everybody's going to try and operate, but only a few are going to be able to actually succeed in the top
Mm-hmm.
tier player, right?
Right.
And so, if you're somebody like Hawthorne and you go in as a freshman, maybe not see a ton of playing time, but they become a sophomore. Well, what's Kentucky going to do next year after these seniors graduate? They're going to go get these guys that are juniors and seniors that are, you know what I'm saying, at other
Yep.
schools, and they're going to try and reload at the top, right?
Yep.
So it does open the question of How quickly can you rise up? Listen, I'm sure he's got his reasons, and I'm sure he'll explain it. Admittingly, to me, it's a little shocking because if the end game is to get to the next level, you don't get to the next level just because the name of the school on your chest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've actually got to go out and prove it, and so I'm probably looking for opportunity. Um, and I feel like he would have gotten more opportunity at West Virginia. And again, I want to be clear: I'm not knocking the kid's decision at all, at all. I'm sure he has excellent reasons and valid reasons as to why Kentucky was the choice. I'm just speaking for me. I think if what you were trying to accomplish was to be seen on the floor and proving your value and your talent, you would have had more opportunity at West Virginia. Um, but obviously, he felt a little bit different. I will say this too: as big of a fan as I am of Braydon Hawthorne, and I want to preface what I'm about to say that it's no slight to him whatsoever. This isn't the end of the world for West Virginia, right?
Right. Exactly.
I love how this team has shaped up. I know we're focusing on Hawthorne right now, but it's worth noting that Trace and Eaglestaff withdrew from the NBA combine and the draft, and will most thought he would, but is definitely coming back or come to West Virginia. So that's good news. They have built a solid core and a foundation for next year's team. I think West Virginia's going to be fine. Now, Braden Hawthorne would have helped tremendously, I believe, but they're going to be okay. Yeah, I think you're going to start hearing some news pretty soon about rounding that roster out because
Yeah.
they do need a few players at certain positions. So we'll see where they go.
Yeah. And it looks like Deer might be coming back. I don't know what's going to happen with that. He withdrew from the portal, uh, but they haven't announced him as part of the roster, so who knows?
Yeah, and it may be that things have been so crazy for Coach Hodge that he just hasn't had a chance to completely evaluate. And now that it's slowed down a little bit and time has allowed, maybe he's actually been able to get some film. There wasn't a lot of film on him, and certainly there wasn't last year at West Virginia. So it was maybe an opportunity that he needed to see on film, or I don't know if he's in town or what it might be, but actually. Um, Watch some tape and see if he sees what he needs to see for him to come back. I'm not sure where they'll go, but I really like where West Virginia is at right now. Excited about
Mhm.
about the 4, 5, 6 guys that are core pieces to this team. Now it's about finding the right fits,
Yep.
and I trust that he'll do that.
Agreed. What are your two what other positions of need in your mind right now?
Yeah, I think center is the first one that stands out. Listen, because we saw that last year, right? I mean, quite frankly, West Virginia there was mismatches down low. They didn't have the size, they didn't have the physicality. They had to play out of position. They just didn't have the depth,
Mhm.
and it caused players to kind of rotate. And even DeVries in the beginning of the season, he openly admitted we do not have the roster the way I wish it would be. So we're going to have to double down. We're going to have to, get out, and we're going to have to rotate on defense because we just don't have it. And it caught West Virginia a few times last year. So I think that's number one. I think you've got to get somebody. I love where they're at, um, but they've got to get somebody that, again, he's not going to have to be a starter, but somebody that can get that 8, 10, 12 minutes and can burn 5 fouls if he needs to and get you 4 or 5 rebounds. And then the other one would be I think you've got to get a backup point guard. Jasper Floyd
Agreed.
needs somebody. I love having Floyd because and we've talked about this. He's a coach on the floor. He's going to know the system that Ross Hodge has. So a lot of the newer players, he's going to be able to kind of help teach and lead and guide there. Um, but he's not going to be able to stay on the floor for 40 minutes.
Right.
So you have to have somebody that can come in and back him up. So if I were to be trying to put this roster together and put the finishing touches on it. Those are the two positions where, Big Harlan needs a backup and Jasper needs a backup too.
Mhm.
So those are the two spots that just really jump out to me.
Would you be surprised if he goes out and gets, let's say he goes out and gets another wing, another shooting guard, and doesn't bring in another point guard, uh, and maybe uses Eagle Staff as his, because Eagle Staff's played the point apparently in his
He
career.
he has, and I think Huff can play it too.
Yeah.
The and that's where I would defer to Ross Hodge. He knows what he's doing a lot more than me. But do you take one of your scorers and slide them over to more of a facilitator? And not that they can't score from the point guard, but that's not necessarily where you want them at. So is he comfortable with sliding them over? You could also make the argument. I'd be interested in what you think about this. Do you try and go? Get a quality backup point guard because that player is a backup point guard, or to your point, do you go out and just get the best player available?
Yeah.
I mean, if that player is a small forward and he's a 6'6" shooting guard or a 6'7" small forward, but he's the best player and you can get him, do you go get that player and then figure out who you want to play your backup, or do you just go specifically backup? And I mean, I don't know the answer to that,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
a couple ways you can go about it.
Assuming that was not a factor, okay? Because we
Right.
all know it would be. I would rather have the best player available,
Yeah.
personally. Now, that being said, I agree with you that I think center and a backup point guard are the two positions in need. But assuming that you think you have guys on the roster who can handle the point guard spot for 5-6 minute stretches of a game, even longer than that if need be. Assuming you think you have that already on the roster, then yes, you go with the best player available and you put
Yeah.
them in there wherever you need to get them. But again, if with NIL being a factor, you may not be able. They've spent. Rumor is they spent a lot of money getting the guys they've got now, notably two of them. And if the money's not there, maybe you have to go get a backup point guard, right? Maybe that's your only option at this point.
Right.
Plus, it's late in the game as far as the portal window. So, but yes, everything equal, I'd get the best player available personally.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know that there's, and that's where I think you have to trust that he knows what he's doing, obviously, and how it's going to fit. And I agree with you. I think the question becomes: are you comfortable with taking an Honor Huff out of a scoring mentality, which we know he can put the ball through the hoop, and put him more as the leader on the floor in terms of trying to
Mm-hmm.
handle the basketball, or sliding Eagle Staff over to that position. So if the comfort, I feel like if he can look at this group and say I'm comfortable there, then you do that. So yeah, I mean, assuming NIL is not a huge issue, and that's what I think they're trying to do right now is almost. It's essentially is professional, right? I mean, you take your budget and you try and work through your roster and what you have left and who's willing to take this and who's willing to take that. And but there are a few holes left on this team, and I believe they'll get addressed pretty quickly. But I don't know that one's a wrong answer. I don't know that one's a right answer. I just think if you feel like you can get the best player available, then you go get him. I
Mm-hmm.
think if you feel like this guy's maybe only going to give me 7-8 minutes a game, but he's going to be able to come in and I can trust him handling the basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to play some defense for me. Then that's an option as well. And it is worth noting too that there are a few other players from North Texas that are floating out there that could potentially come over. I guess the question would be, why haven't they come earlier? But I don't know that I would shut the door on that either. So
Yeah. Yep.